A decade ago, fentanyl was familiar to mostly doctors, the terminally ill, or those suffering with severe pain. Now it's in street drugs.
Illegal drug supply in Vancouver is overwhelmingly contaminated with fentanyl.
86% according to Vancouver's Insight, and here's why. It's cheap, as little as $5 per patch at Ontario pharmacies, and it's powerful. An amount the size of a single grain of salt delivers a heroin-like high. But the line is tragically thin between that high and a body bag. In 2012, 13 people died in BC from drug overdoses linked to fentanyl. In 2014, that number jumped to 91. And for the first half of this year, 238.
It's not just people with addiction who are going to die. There are people in pain who are going to die, and there are young people who are experimenting with drugs, as young people will do.
I'm just trying to do it on my own right now because it's like just to get into a bed, it's like pulling teeth.
Bryson Diaz is sweaty and uncomfortable. He hasn't had his methadone dose yet. That's the pink liquid that keeps nasty withdrawal symptoms at bay. The medicine that keeps him from using heroin laced with bootleg fentanyl, a drug that already killed him once.
They only had given us a tiny little bit. Me and my girlfriend split it into two. And by the time she had hit it, I was hitting mine, and we were just gone like that. It was within seconds that it was all black, and I was being woken up to a paramedic cutting my shirt and resuscitating me.
Oh, he completely died. And his girlfriend at the time also completely died, and she was pregnant. So they were both there. They both OD'd, and 2 hours later they were on the street. And her being pregnant, I was just appalled that they did that.
His mom has been trying to find him a publicly funded treatment program for years. A CBC News investigation into BC's addiction treatment system reveals a patchwork of private and provincially funded programs that are outdated, ineffective, or very hard to access.
What I'm finding they do the most is they pass the buck. They tell you to call somebody else or call another facility, and then when you call them, they put you somewhere else, or there's not enough beds, or the wait list is extremely long to call this number, try to get in here, and you're calling around to place, and yet your son needs to get in there because if he doesn't get in, he's going to use again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow.
His methadone dose is too high for most provincially funded programs, and she can't afford the private center fees.
Because I don't have that kind of money, I believe he's just, the system's just failing him and passing him through, and they don't care.
Now she lives in constant fear Bryson won't survive his next relapse. She's furious with BC's premier for not doing more to curb overdose deaths.
She said whatever she needed to say to get elected, and I think if it was her child, things would be a lot different than they are now.
It's in black and white on the election platform. Christy Clark got elected in part on a promise to create an additional 500 addiction spaces in the province by 2017. But she is nowhere near meeting that target. By the end of this year, only 220 new addiction treatment beds will be in place. That's 66% shy of what she promised. 280 beds short in a year when overdose deaths are projected to hit 800.
It's a serious epidemic, and they don't care about our youth. They don't, that's somebody's child. They didn't wake up and say, I'm going to be an addict today.
In Maple Ridge right now, all that's going around is pink fentanyl. And it's that's not real heroin, man. And these people know that, and it doesn't really matter because it gets you higher than heroin, and they're just doing whatever gets them unsick. I get dope sick within 6 hours. I go to sleep at night, wake up in the morning, can't even get up out of bed. Stomach hurts, my skin's on fire and melting off of me. I'm puking, I have no energy to do anything. You constantly go into the bathroom, constantly sweating, hot, cold. It's the worst feeling.
Diaz says being slave to an opioid addiction has ruined his life and destroyed his chance to raise his daughter, who was born in January.
If I got a bad batch and I was on the streets right now, I'd be praying that it was one of those doses that killed me. Anything like that to basically take me away from this world, because it's such a cruel, pathetic life. And I was pissed off when the paramedics woke me up because of the fact that, I have to go through this all again.
They're hoping one of the new addiction treatment beds the province says is coming soon will eventually help him get the rehab that he needs. The province now insists it's on track to meet that 500-bed promise by the end of 2017, not the beginning like they promised in their election platform. Natalie Clancy, CBC News, Vancouver.